Good evening and welcome to the FiTT Show. Financial information for today and tomorrow. I'm Bobby P. Kinzer,
And I'm Thomas Doty.
and we are the FiTT Show, helping out people get their finances in shape. Yes, we're here again, show number 233, going strong, Thomas Doty. And we just want to let you know we just try to provide information, financial information that you can use in your everyday life. We try to put it there where the ghosts can get it. Just want to let you know that we want to start off. You must hit the like button for us. That helps us. And the heart button, both of those buttons give us great traction. Please do that. And please place comments in the comment box. Any questions you have, comments, or any show ideas that you'd like for us to have a show on. We are open to that. We've done a lot of shows, like I said, 233, which has been about 4 straight years, though. So things have been pretty good, and we thank you all for joining us around the country and actually around the world. Last week's show was money advice, part two from the experts. We hope that was useful to you. And if you did not see that show, you can go out on Facebook and see the show. They only stay out there for 30 days, but on YouTube, I think they stay out there forever. So you can go out there on YouTube. Oh, need to also let you know, please uh, share on Facebook with your family, friends, and neighbors, and especially on YouTube. You need to subscribe, get people to come out. We talk to all ages. We try to reach everybody. It's complicated sometimes to reach everybody where they are. But if you put in the comment box the subject that you would like specifically, we will make sure we'll get to it and talk about it. But on today, if you have any questions or opinions on what we're talking about, please put them in the comment box because the comment box helps us reach. That's how you reach more people in algorithms and Facebook. So thank you for that. And I'm done with the administrative duties. Dote, how are you today?
I am happy to be alive. I'm in Cleveland visiting for my mother's birthday. So we're doing 106th birthday on Sunday.
One, ooh, good googly mooglies. That says a lot about your longevity, man. You got a good
I hope
odds.
so. In my luck,
Uh,
I'm going to get my dad's.
yeah, I hope I don't get my dad's either. But 106 years, though. Oh, what a
Yeah,
blessing, man.
that's
What
for
a
sure.
blessing. What's your mother's name?
Minnie.
Minnie. Wow, wow. Don't think I ever asked you that. I just always knew Miss Doty. Minnie Doty. Wow, that's pretty awesome. So, thank you all for tuning in, and I'd like to kick this show off by starting to talk about the stock market, the
Mm,
inevitable stock market for all y'all people who are in the market, both individually, mutual funds, and 401k, 403b plans. We're going to talk a little bit about what's going on today in the stock market. And Dope, we're hoping that one of these weeks you're going to give us some good news about the stock
well,
market. We're hoping today is going to be one.
if you guys have went to buy gas, you kind of have a feel for how things are going because things are out of control. You got both sides of a warring faction, each bombing oil fields. The price of oil continues to go up, and the effect on the economy is going to be devastating when you look at the cost of this uh, war. That's not a war yet because it hasn't been declared by Congress. But you can see it in the stock market. There's worries that inflation is going to come back, and the market has been fairly stagnant of late. So there's not really a lot of good news right now. If you look at the stocks I deal with, you can see the S&P is down a little over 2%. Nasdaq's only down 1%, but you can stocks I hold all of the tech stocks that are very inflation sensitive. You can see they all have taken a big hit. this past week. Microsoft being down 13, Apple's being down 7, Nvidia 4, and Google's actually up 3, so it's doing a little better. The two, let's call them non-AI related stocks, Pfizer is flat, and Boston Scientific is actually up a point. Get over there to year to date, you can see the S&P is down 4% now, Nasdaq's down 5%. Microsoft is down 20% year to date. It's not been good. You got Apple down 8, Nvidia down 4, Google down 3%, and Pfizer's actually up 8%, but that's only a couple of points. And Boston Scientific is down 35%. But again, I got into this stock and I think around 76. So I'm still in the red, but not as bad as it was earlier this year. And I don't see things getting any better. The guy who's in charge of our country is not going to ever admit defeat. But and it's funny, just a couple of months ago, he was telling us how he obliterated all of their nuclear reaction locations, that he obliterated them, but for some reason there's a need to go to war against them. So we'll see how this thing all shakes out. But again, I'm very, very worried. Inflation, the Fed met yesterday or today, and they agreed not to raise interest rates, or not to lower interest rates. There was actually some thought, that they may raise interest rates, and that would have sent a shock through the market. But I think mortgage rates are higher than they've been in a while, and the market's just not reacting very well to the war. Oil continues to go up, and it's kind of funny. I was reading that the current administration was considering releasing some oil that Iran has and allowing that to get into the system, which would generate revenue for Iran, which they would then use to kill Americans. So tell me how that makes sense. But again, we're not a political show, so we're not going to get into political things.
Right.
But what's going on is having a profound effect on the market. Could boost inflation with gas prices going up like they are. And there's a gazillion things that's going to, the ripple effect of gas going up is going to hit a lot of products that use gas, obviously, in their production. So it's going to be shaky for a while, and we'll have to see how this all comes out. But as we always say, we invest for the long term. Things happen, and this too shall pass.
Yes, it will. And just to let you know that crude oil, it was up to $100 a barrel, but now it's back down to $93 a barrel for some reason. But a year ago, it was like $67 a barrel. So, as that goes up, I'm sure prices going. We talked about, me and Dodo talked about doing a show about stagflation, talking about that's the new word, which is, inflation and how the economy is doing, the growth of the economy together. And it's called a new term. And it's real, man, because it's going to be affecting, all the things that we purchase. So we try to do these shows to help. You can't, determine or control what's going on in the market, but you can at least position yourself where you can absorb any future shocks to your particular finances. I want to talk a little bit about, I want to let you know about gold. Gold is down about 17 to 20%. It was up heading towards $6,000. And now it's down to $4,600. I don't know what's going on there. And silver is down to $72. But they're saying no, silver is in a lot of things, semiconductors, your cell phone, all kinds of things. Silver is actually in, and there's a shortage of silver. So they're saying silver might be going up because a lot of people, major companies are stashing silver, especially ones that use it, and they're talking about freezing on selling the silver because they're going to be needing a lot of data centers. is to run those things. Silver run is in those computers too. So that's something to think about. Look it up. Do your research, like we always say. Know what's going on. But those are some things to consider. Let's talk about the cryptocurrency market. It's the total market is only up 1%, but that's good. It's not down, and you know what I'm saying.
You forever positive, my brother.
I lied. I try to keep a positive mental attitude. PMA. And that's 27 billion, believe it or not, that is up. It's not a lot when you're talking about $2.4 trillion. That's what that is. Um, Bitcoin is back up. It was down like around $66,000 a Bitcoin. Now it's up $70,468 a Bitcoin. That's up $288. That's less than 1%, believe it or not. So I mean, but it's up. Ethereum, the smart contracts, is still at number two. That's up 4%. That's a pretty good jump for that. And Tether is still the stable coin. It's still in third place and has not moved. And Ripple and Binance keep replacing each other. Last week Binance was number four. This week Ripple is number four, and it's only up. Not only it's up 6%. So I guess that might have something to do with it. And Binance is down once again. Binance is another one of those contract things. And then you have another stable coin, USDC, which is at number six, and it's holding. Stable coins which are paid supposedly to the dollar. The reason why I say supposedly, because part of it is pegged to the dollar for dollar, and then some of them actually uh, um, collateralizing with other assets other than the dollar. But most part, stable coins are supposed to be pegged to the dollar, which makes them stable coins. So as we always say, stay the course. If you're in the cryptocurrency, we believe our philosophy is long term. Because you can't time the market. So we believe it's about the long term. So be cautious. So dope. Today's show is keep your cool in volatile times. And I think this is very good because a lot of people, we get, I know I get a lot of calls from my friends, especially how crazy and volatile the market has been. And I just want to let y'all know, for some of you all who don't deal with individual stocks or individual investments like mutual funds and stuff like that, you got 401k and 403b plans. So, this is talking to you.
Yeah, and it's real very, very important that you don't make a mistake during these times. And Bob always talks about controlling what you can control. And there are some things you can do to make sure you can stay on solid ground during this crazy market volatility. Some of the things we're going through now. I mean, you have to make sure your portfolio reflects the risk that you're comfortable with, that it's okay with, that however much risk you have in the market, that you're okay with that. You have to, if possible, make sure you have sufficient liquidity so you don't have to make a bad move or sell something to generate cash when these times are bad. And as we always tell you, you have to have a long-term plan that's going to encompass you trying to build your wealth and keep you focused when things get erratic or crazy as they are now. And I mean, we've all survived, inflation spikes, interest rates going up like crazy. I remember back in the 80s, interest rates were 16% on mortgages. You've had crazy things happen in the market. You've had tsunamis, tornadoes, all kind of things have happened. And right now we're in the midst of a bunch of geopolitical craziness, and commodity prices are going like crazy, and inflation may rear its ugly head back. And so nobody knows what's going to happen with interest rates. None of this is going to guarantee poor long-term returns. Long-term, The market has always gone up. And what you have to do is be a little sharper during these times and making sure you've done some of the things that we're going to describe to you today to keep you on level ground doing all this craziness. And again, the real risk isn't volatility. That's going to happen. That's
Right.
inevitable. But the
Right.
real risk is you not making poor decisions during the volatility. So, you know, forget about trying to predict the market and getting out now and trying to figure out when to get in. We're going to talk about several practical steps you can take to control what you can control and to put you on solid footing during these crazy times.
Dude, I know a lot of people who have 401k plans, and they just, and for the longest, especially the last market downturn, um, 2020, and before then, they just put all their money in government securities like you know, government securities, right? Which is very, very low risk. And because they were just afraid of what was going on in the market and all their money, like if you're in like the thrift savings plan, which is the government 401 plan, they have the G fund, and that's the least risk is given maybe 2-3% at best. And the C fund, which is equity stocks, has been given anywhere between 15 and 20%. So these people have been missing out because of, and I understand about fears and stuff like that, but that's in volatility. But that's what we want to talk about today. Especially for investors with a long term perspective. And when I say long term, we're talking about 3, 5, 10 years, right? For investors with the long term perspective, short term market volatility is a distraction that's better off ignored. While the market could be in for a bumpy ride the next few months, it's best to stay the course and avoid making any major portfolio changes based on the latest news headlines, right? Famous stock market quotes emphasize long-term thinking. Um, Long-term thinking, and I'm talking about stock market quotes like from Warren Buffett. They emphasize, long-term thinking, emotional control, buying quality assets at good prices. And this is what actually the great Warren Buffett, who went to my high school, Woodrow Wilson High School in Washington, D.C.
Did he really?
Yeah, yep. That's where Warren
That's
Buffett
cool.
went. Yep.
I can't see your picture. I can't see your face.
Yeah, because, oh, you can't see my face? Wonder what happened.
There you go.
Okay.
What'd you
Okay.
do?
I don't know. I just was, I just hit a button and it came on.
Oh,
That
good.
was weird. That you could, okay. But anyway, what I was saying was, yeah, Warren Buffett has this. He has this saying though: the stock market is a device to transfer money from the inpatient to the patient. And the key lessons
So
include,
true.
isn't that true? And and
So
and that's
true.
what investment is all about, though. Really, it's not. It's about risk and how, timelines and all of that, but it's really about patience because most people, that's what get them in trouble. You know, and one of the key lessons we're going to talk about today is avoiding market timing, maintaining a margin of safety, and remaining fearful. This is one of Buffett's statement: remaining fearful when others are being greedy.
Yeah, and let's be clear here. We're not saying that people don't buy lottery tickets and win a gazillion dollars. People don't look up and find stocks that go up greatly in value. But those type of situations are few and far between. We're talking what Bob and I believe in is a slow, steady approach to building wealth. It's tried and true, having some level of investment in the stock market and at whatever risk level that you're comfortable with. investing consistently, starting young, and those have been surefire ways to build debt, to build wealth. And we're not saying it's the only way. There's other ways you can do it, but this is what we believe in. This is how we believe you can build wealth. It's not a get rich quick scheme. It takes time, it takes discipline, it takes investing, some investing knowledge, but it's tried and true. And that's just what we believe.
And the reason why we believe it too, though, tell them.
Hey,
Because
it
it
works
worked.
for us.
That was on time.
It works for everybody who does it. I mean, you can. I think you'd be hard pressed to find someone who's invested over their lifetime at some level of consistency and I'm talking a reasonable amount of money, who didn't end up with a whole bunch at the end. That's just kind of how it works. Now, the folks who try to get in, get out, time the market, and all that kind of stuff, some of them hit. We're not saying that those things never work. We're just saying they don't work consistently. Most people don't have the requisite knowledge to be able to do it successfully, and we think what we try to get across is tried and true. It's always worked.
Yeah. So yeah, let's. One of the things we want to talk about is build liquidity before you need it.
Well, let's back up a little bit because we talk about market timing.
Good. Okay. Good.
Yeah,
I thought you actually were doing that.
No. It's more important, and I mentioned this earlier, is to make sure your portfolio reflects your risk comfort. Okay. So what I'm saying is if you've had a run up, let's say you owned a bunch of AI stocks that had a pretty significant run up, and you have determined that your risk level is about 70% stocks and 30% fixed instruments. If you were heavily invested at 70%, that percentage has probably grown tremendously. You're probably more like 80-20 or 85-15 now. And what's really important is that you make sure your risk in your portfolio reflects where you're comfortable at. So if you want to be 70-30, make sure you rebalance your portfolio to maintain that 70-30. So then if there's market volatility, which again, is inevitable, you're still going to be okay. You're not going to be looking to jump off a bridge or jump off a building. Everybody wants to think they can time the market. It's impossible. I think we've showed you several times charts that talk about if you miss just a few strong recovery days, how that significantly affects your long-term returns. And so the strongest days are typically right after periods of high volatility. And you don't want to miss those. You don't want to take a chance on missing those. And by trying to time the market, you will not be successful. For most people, 99 out of 100 will not be. Some people will get lucky, but you don't want to depend on luck when it comes to managing your portfolio. You want to depend on tried and true methods. And timing the market, that's it's not going to cut it. Make sure you keep your risk level where you're comfortable, and that will allow you to sleep at night, even during volatile times.
We have a little bit of technical difficulty out there, though. I'm looking at on some people are saying that we freezing and unlocking. So bear with us. We have no control over that. I guess that
you paid your electric bill?
Yeah, I wonder. Doe, can you still see me?
You're fine. Yeah, everything's on my end. Everything sounds and looks good.
Yeah, my end too. But some people were saying I was frozen, and then you couldn't see me at one time. I don't know what happened. So anyway, let's keep going.
Keep going.
Let's keep going. Next, Build liquidity before you need it. Liquidity is the most effective and most overlooked defenses against market stress. When investors don't have adequate cash reserve, they may be forced to sell stocks during a downturn to cover living expenses, to cover taxes, or large planned purchases that turns temporary market declines to permanent losses. Now, one of the solutions, uh, practical solutions to this, is have emergency savings for working, households, like anywhere from 3 to 6 to 12 months emergency savings, right? And sometimes another framework is like 2 to 5 years of planned withdrawals for retirees, like, that is held in cash and treasury bills or high quality short term bonds. Now, the appropriate level amount depends on income stability, spending needs, and overall portfolio risks. Me and Dope talk about that all the time. Your goals, your risk, and the horizon. Those things you must know. It depends on that how much you should hold. Now the goal is to create enough flexibility to ride out the market declines without disrupting your long-term strategy. Because you still want to keep, even these times that are volatile, you still want to keep ahead with your long-term investment strategy. But liquidity can also create an opportunity, like Dope does a lot, where investors with available cash are often positioned and better positioned to rebalance or even invest when the market becomes, real takes a beating. You can get in at a low cost, and if you have those cash reserves set up there, you can benefit from it.
And now, Bob, I'm catching that technical difficulty because your voice is going in and out.
Okay. Yep. Nothing we can do about it. We slave to technologies.
Yeah, and just to add on to what you're saying, Bob, if and by liquidity, it means you just have cash on hand, and if you can find opportunities in these volatile markets, a good company that you know is solid, that has had a tremendous drop in price, there's nothing wrong with taking a chance, a shot at buying that at that particular time, and that's why you'd want to have liquid funds available at all times. So you can never have too much on the side. One to get you through those tough times, but also to take advantage of opportunities as they present themselves. And I want to make sure we understand the rebalancing part, rebalancing proactively, and you have to understand the tax consequences when you do that. So it's like I mentioned before, if you are heavily invested in AI stocks, that portion of your portfolio probably grew much, much faster than every other part of your portfolio. So you got to make sure you get that total stock amount back to where you're comfortable. And you do that in advance because when volatility happens, you don't want to have to do it then, right? And taxes are always going to play a part in your investment decisions. You can't avoid it. So highly appreciated investments, if you sell a whole bunch of those all at once, you're going to get killed in capital gains. Okay. So if you rebalance proactively, gradually rebalance your portfolio over multiple years, that can spread out the tax impact and provide more control of the timing of realized gains. It's just a matter of staying on top of your portfolio, rebalancing when you need to, taking some profits off the table. Again, looking at where your income is and finding those strategic times to reduce holdings in certain stocks. Then when the craziness happens, you're in a much better position to handle it. You're ready to do some tax loss harvesting if you've been sitting on gains and you have a situation where you have a stock that's taking a tremendous drop and you feel like you need to get rid of that stock. Well, you can sell some losses, and you can also sell some losses and use that loss to offset some gains that you may have. Again, that's all part of rebalancing. You have to be proactive. You have to stay on top of it. And again, if you have a heavy stock position, highly appreciated assets, and you don't want to have to sell them all at once, because you at some point you're going to need cash. So if you can do it proactively, stay on top of it, stay ahead of it, you'll be in a much better position.
Yeah, and these volatile times, people can get um, very emotional, because what can be more emotional than your money, and especially as we get older, right? As we get older, the common theme or concern is, will I have enough? That's what I hear from most of my friends. Will I outlive my money? And a lot of people, and I told you, my personal goals, I don't want to be old and broke up, and I don't want to be old and broke. And that's a fear of a lot of older people, especially people who come from families who, their parents, went into investing, and they come from meager means, and you remember that kind of stuff. So it makes you be a little bit more tentative. But remember, like me and Dodo always say, sometimes, not taking any risks is taking a risk. Because if your money isn't keeping up with the actually, keeping up with the economy, you could be spending more than you're making. So just want to, just to ride on that point. Excuse me
Hey,
a little
hey
bit.
Bob, we're going to have to do a show where we talk about, because there's also a bunch of people who just save and they retire and they don't spend. Okay. They continue to hoard, they continue to be cautious, they continue to be conservative. So we need to talk about that in the future.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that is a real occurrence with individuals. And I talked to some people today, the other day, and they were like, I just don't, I can't trust Vanguard. I don't trust Fidelity. These are major financial institutions that's been doing this and managing money for years and making people money, but they just feel, and then they throw out names like, like Bernie Madoff. I'm like, oh God, you know, and so that misinformation is, sometimes is so debilitating. Next, though, I'd like to talk about don't rely on diversification alone. And this one is interesting because you all know one of me and those themes is diversify, diversify, diversify your portfolio so that you can be able, when the market's up, you can take advantage of it. And when the market's down, you can take advantage of it. But this particular thought is that diversification across stocks and bonds, without a doubt, remains the essential major way of a portfolio construction. But it isn't a complete solution during times of market stress. In sharp downturns, many asset classes can decline at the same time, particularly when risk sentiment changes quickly. For instance, a few years ago, um, how it works, bonds and stocks is like an inverted relationship. When stocks are up, bonds are usually down, and when stocks are down, bonds are up, and that's how that always work and balance your portfolio. But a few years ago, bonds were actually uh, going the same direction down as the market was, and people didn't even know where to put their money, where it was safe to put your money. And then the next thing is don't be putting it under your mattress. But that's why diversification should be paired with liquidity planning and tax awareness. Investors who hold illiquid assets, such as private real estate, private equity, should be particularly cautious. Uh, these investments can be difficult to sell quickly, increasing the importance of maintaining adequate liquidity reserve, elsewhere in your portfolio. Now, the goal is to ensure that your short-term cash needs and tax considerations don't force changes to your long-term investment positions at the wrong time. That's so important.
Yeah. Another thing you can look at doing is strengthening your portfolio's income foundation. Because, I mean, reliable income is always important, especially when the market's going crazy. And so, what are we talking about when we talk about income foundation? We're talking about things like T bills, bonds, dividend paying stocks. They all can generate cash flow without requiring you to sell the asset in order to get at the cash. So, again, I mean, hopefully nobody's invested 100% in stocks and they're all aggressive. So, you, if you decide you want to be at a 60-40 split, make sure some of that 40, you'd have to decide how much fits your personal situation. Some of that 40, I'm sorry, some of that 60, some of the stock portion includes some dividend paying stocks, again, which can help you generate cash when times are crazy. And quality always matters, right? You don't want to get any low rated bonds or companies with heavy debts. Those will not hold up during bad times, or firms with poor credit grades, or firms that have had dividend cuts and things of that sort. So you can make that part of your portfolio and you can still generate some income when times are volatile. But you have to make sure you manage it correctly. Because again, you don't want to become too defensive, right? If you're too defensive, when you get a bull market, you won't do as well because you're being defensive. So you got to find the right balance between growth and stability. And that's where you have to decide what your time horizon is, what your spending needs are going to be, and most importantly, what's your risk tolerance for short-term fluctuations. It's not easy to do, but it's got to be done.
That's for sure, though. But yeah, those income producing are very important. I want to talk about putting your guardrails in place, in particular behavioral guardrails. What I mean by that, even well-constructed portfolios can fail if investors are abandoning their strategy during periods of stress. It's so easy to get caught up into the panic mode, where common behavior mistakes occur, like selling after the declines, chasing recent winners.
Bob, your voice just went out, Bob. Your face is frozen, but your voice just went out.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, now you're good.
Okay, cool. Yeah, yeah. This thing's acting crazy today.
Okay, now
Um,
now I can see your face. I can see your face and everything's moving.
okay, good. Okay, good. That's good to know. So, um, like I was saying, common behavior mistakes include selling after declines, chasing recent winners, or even trying to time the market, time when to get out and back into the market. I know a lot of people try to do that, but it's highly, even the top major people have problems with that. And these decisions are typically driven by short-term emotions rather than long-term strategies. And if you have a good plan strategy, that can help you deal with the emotional part when the markets tend to be going all over the place. And planning ahead can reduce the likelihood of reactive decisions, and that's very important. Reactive decisions really takes people down that dark rabbit hole. But you need to consider documenting things like document your target asset allocation. But like Doe said a minute ago, when and how you rebalance that is important because you could have had a 60% in equities and 40% in bonds and cash, but because the market grew and did so much, it might then switch your mix to 70% stocks and 30% cash equivalents. And if your strategy is to keep it at 60-40, then you need to rebalance it. But it's upon you to make the target asset allocations that you want that works for you that deals with the risk that you're willing to take. And also, you need to consider in your long-term strategy where short-term cash needs will come from. We're talking about, 0 to a year, less than a year is considered short-term. So you need to consider those particular cash needs, how much you probably need for that. Now, having these guardrails in place, creates a framework for decision making when the markets become so volatile. Can you see me, though?
Yes, everything's okay.
Good.
Let's wrap it up.
Okay. How about preparations matters more than prediction?
Oh, forgot about that. Yeah, I'm ahead of myself.
Yes, you are.
Yeah,
uh,
and that's kind of a summary of what we've talked about today. Market volatility doesn't tell you that something's broken. It's part of the game. The market is going to be volatile. It's going to go up. It's going to go down. Most of the time, it's going to go up, and that's a healthy part of long-term investing. So, the investors who navigate volatility, who rebalance, who have a plan, those are the ones that are successful. You know, they not that you're trying to predict these downturns, but you just know they're going to happen. They enter a period with sufficient liquidity. They've got the amount of risk exposed. So if something happens, they don't overreact. They're aware of their tax situation and they have a clear plan for how they respond. They will not make panic moves. They will not uh, jump on the bandwagons. They have a plan and they stick to it. And when things happen that are volatile, they stick to their plan. And if they're liquid enough and they see some opportunities, they take advantage of those opportunities. You got to remember, you can't control when the market moves, you know, but you can prepare yourself and you can make sure that these moves don't force you to do things that will undermine your long-term growth. And so preparedness is everything with this.
and don't let the market, just the market volatility scare you. And so, for some of you all that are those low risk takers and don't trust the man, just consider taking a little bit out, and putting it in something that's going to give you some growth, especially now with, the prices being down. It's the perfect time to get in at a lower cost. But if you're not, want to take a big plunge, at least stick your foot in the water and take, just a portion of your portfolio. And for instance, like if you're talking about the 401k, the thrift savings plan, TSP, the C fund has been earning, I mean, considerably, but I know a lot of people stay in the G fund. And um, so just think about that, y'all. If you're not willing to go and swing for the fence, we're not saying that. Just take a portion of that you can, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? And I don't want to say sacrifice, but that you can.
Invest. I think that's the word.
I guess
Invest.
that's yeah. I was looking for a better word though. Like that, like not. I didn't want to say afford to lose or anything like that, but just
No,
something. But just a small piece that you can take a little bit more risk with. I'm not talking about take risk with your whole portfolio. That's what we're trying to say. Kitty says, how often should I make changes in my TSP um, 401k plan?
okay. That's just your company savings plan.
Yeah, that's the government saving plan. FDIC
Oh
has
yeah,
two.
but it's just like we talked about. You assess your risk level, make sure you are invested in accordance with that risk level. I think you want to look at it quarterly as far as rebalancing to make sure things have gotten out of hand, somewhere between every 3 and 6 months to make sure your portfolio makeup is where you're comfortable and at your risk level, at a risk level that you're comfortable with. And as far as making change, now, do you have different options in there, Bob?
Yes, you have the G fund, which is the lowest risk, which is government securities, bonds, um, um, treasury bonds, and things like that. That's the lowest risk. And then you have the C fund, which is equity, which is the stocks, right?
So you only have two choices?
No. Then we have the S fund, which is bonds, and then we
So
have
you have
the
three
I.
choices.
And no, then there's four. Then we have I for an
How
international
many? Let's do this. How many choices do you have?
five.
Four choices. Five.
International.
Can you pick a?
And then
Can
let
you
me
pick
give
a
you the last.
percentage
Let me
of
give
each
you the
one?
last. The last one is the
Okay.
S fund, which is small cap. Up in small companies, emerging companies. So as you can see, there's and then they have the life cycle funds too. Like 20, 28, 20, 34, 20, 40, that you can just leave it in there and they'll mix it according. If you're a young person, you go with your 2020 life cycle, they'll put it in more risk. And if you're like getting ready to retire, then you put it in the 2028 fund and it'll be less risky. But the main ones are those five.
So you can take percentages of each and put it
Yep.
in there.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So and that gets right what we're talking about, because you got to look at the international, the small cap, and the risk, and the one that you said was more risky, and then you got the bond, fund and the fixed increment fund, right? So you look at the bond fund and the fixed increment fund as your safety, portion of your portfolio, and the other three are your risky proportion. And so you have to decide, again, if you want to be 70-30, you want to have 70% invested into those three riskier funds and 30% invested in the two, let's call them safer funds. And that's for you to figure out what your risk level is. And, I always tease you for saying what you're willing to lose, but I'm not sure I can think of a better way to describe it, is the amount that you can expect to have volatility. Okay, realize that it may go up, it may go down. And how much are you comfortable with? Okay, we always tell you, Bob, I'm more of a 70-30, 70, 75, 30, 25 person. Bob is more of a 55, 45,
60-40.
60-40. He says 60-40, but he's really closer to 50-50 because he is extremely.
No, I don't do 50-50. I never do 50-50. It's either going to be 55-45 or 60-40. I don't do 50-50. No.
Okay, he's extremely conservative, and a lot of it depends on where you are. It's like, and it's kind of bass backwards, because the more you have, the more you can afford to be risky, and typically that's the more you're gonna make, because we always talk about no risk it, no biscuit. And so it's another one of those situations where folks who have money are in a position to make more money because they can absorb a little more risk, in which case you have an opportunity to make more money.
And most things you said, some of them overlap. I don't know what you mean by that, but we do have. Thanks, Kitty. Kitty just put in here the G fund, which I told you is the government security. The S fund is small cap. The C fund is the equity stocks. The I is international, and the F fund is bonds. And I don't know if you mean with the overlap, Modestine. There is a income that has both bonds and equities in it. Is that what you mean? The overlaps. They have I'm sorry. What's they called? Oh God, I'm at a loss for what they call. But they both have. There's a fund that has income funds, and part bonds and part stocks. Those usually under the F fund, by the way. That's where you should be able to find those, or even the C. Not sure, but those are the four funds. Then you have the life cycle funds, like I told you. But I just want to remind you that one of the ways that you can seek to understand your portfolio mix, you go and look at the prospectus, and you can look at each fund and you look and see what it done, year to date, a year ago, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. The further out you go and can see what the return is, can give it. Now, remember they say past performance is no indication of future returns, but the further out the fund goes and it can give you what it earned, that can tell you what type of risk that fund has. Like the C fund, I'm not looking at it right now, but I'm sure the C fund has been paying around 15%. And in some years, it was paying 25%. I know at least, before the pandemic, it was paying 25% because I know I had my money in there. So that's how you look. You look and see what they've been earning.
Hey Bob, does it have a beta attached to those funds?
What do you mean?
A beta risk factor.
Oh yeah, yes. Yes, yeah. Exactly. You can look at all the perspectives and see that. Yes.
Yeah, and what that's going to tell you, a beta of one means it's going to move exactly the way the market moves.
Right.
When the market goes up, it's going to go up by the same percentage. When the market goes down, it's going to go down by the same percentage. Well, you contrast that with a firm with a beta of 2. That's right. A little riskier. That's going to move twice as fast as the market, both ways, up and down. So you want to look at the betas.
That's a good one, though.
Yeah, see how they relate to where you are, and again, where you want to be. And like now, international funds, they're doing really well. Other parts of the world are doing much better than the U.S. right now because of all the turmoil we're going through. And so I'm not sure what the makeup. I mean, international could be Europe, could be Asia, could be South America, could be developing countries, could be a lot of different things. So I'm not sure.
On the scale of 1 to 5, 1 being very low and 5 being very high, in the TSP thrift savings plan, the I fund, the international stock fund, is the highest risk.
Okay.
Very high, very speculative.
Like and I would imagine it has the highest returns.
And it has the highest return because it's returned between 70 and 90% before, and then it's also, and it has also lost 70 to 90% before. That's the thing about the I fund. But the other thing, the indicator, another key indicator for us novice is the expense ratio, and that should be under 1 too, because under 1, say if it's
explain what that is.
The expense ratio is the amount of money that they're charging you to manage the fund, and it tells so. And I think the expense ratio is a percentage of $10,000. So if you stay below 1, say it's like say it's 0.45. That means they charge you $45 for every $10,000 that you have invested, and that is good. That's why I say if it's less than 1, that is good because it's telling you it's pennies on the dollars, and that's what you want to make sure, because that money is coming out the money you're investing. So that's how it can limit the amount that you return. You don't want no high expense ratio, and that money that they taking out, you could have been having in there working for you. And that's what the FDIC, because we had people from the FDIC that was on the board with the thrift savings plan. No, excuse me, that's not thrift savings plan. We have 2 plans. We have the T. Rowe Price, and they were actually on the T. Rowe Price board, and they kept the expense ratios down for our funds, which was great for everybody. But people didn't know we were benefiting from low expense ratios, and that means you have that much more in there to compound interest. But expense ratios is very important because it can affect.
You don't want to buy anything and not know how much it costs.
How about that?
That's your cost of being invested in that fund, and
right.
You want to make sure that cost is reasonable.
Yes, because it could be, even though you go, well, it's just I got 40,000 and it's only $10 or $100, but extra money could be going and compounding and growing in your basket instead of theirs. And that's the difference. So, Doe.
And one more thing, Bob, when you talk about those things, you're talking about over a lot of years. So it could be a little bit of money in 1 year, but when you think about your total work career, it might be 30, 35 years. That little bit of money can add up to a bunch.
Yes, because that's what compound interest does. Don't forget, though, compound dividends helps it grow pretty fast too if you are receiving dividends, and that's why you want to make sure your money is working for you. You should be into anything that you don't know all the particulars of it. If you don't know about it, you don't need to be in it. Don't be listening to Uncle Leroy, because he said he made a whole bunch, but he never tells you what he lost. So, Dope, let's go to the summary and takeaways of today's show. And I'll start it off. First thing is market volatility is inevitable. Like Dope said on up earlier, market volatility happens. It's all the time. But that shouldn't scare you because that's just a constant. So don't let that scare you. Don't let that panic you because as you've seen that we've told you before, the average return of the stock market from 1920 to today is 10%. That's investing. We lost Dope. Don't know where Dope went. Oh, he's back. Can't hear you now.
Mike is muted. Okay, how about
There
now?
you go. Okay, hold on.
Okay. Second point we want to make is how important being prepared is. You got to prepare proactively. And what do we mean by that? We mean by rebalancing at the right time. We mean by building liquidity so you won't have to make poor decisions during volatile times. It's going to happen. Prepare for it to lessen the effect.
Next one is income producing assets are important. Like Dope talked about before, treasuries, U.S. treasuries, bonds, cash equivalents, income producing assets are very important. Even annuities that provide income can be very, very helpful in times of volatility. And yes, that's so important.
And finally, and most importantly, don't panic. Make sound decisions. Bob talked about putting up the guardrails of your behaviors. And we tell you this every show. You have to have a plan. You have to have a plan and stick to it. Rebalance, understand your risk level, and don't make decisions that are panicked. That can only lead to bad results.
So important, though, to know that. Um, Thank you, everyone, for being on the show today. Um, as usual, we got 20 pounds of knowledge in a 10-pound bag. And Kitty just keeps us so up to date. Today is the last day of winter. Tomorrow is the first day of spring. Did not know that, Kitty. Thank you, Kitty. You're just so knowledgeable. Thank you with that, Kitty. And just like to give a shout out to Rodney L. Madison, the senior, the note experience.com. Rodney talks about, he says, mortgage notes are still working and looking very attractive. That's true, but remember.
And that's a good diversifying tool, too.
Yeah, but in times of volatility, mortgage notes are pretty illiquid. So you need to consider that to make sure you have the cash reserves to balance that out. My sister Nolia, hello, Sister Nolia, and my sister Linda. Hello, my sister Linda. And I don't see my sister Gloria out here today. She just been appointed the head of the trustees of her church, so she's got a lot
Oh,
of.
wow. Good for her.
I don't know.
Probably a lot of work.
She's busy. Oh, a lot of work, a lot of work. Bless her soul. And Joanne Skinner, Modestine, so good to see you, my dear. Kitty, thank you for always for your comments and helping out. And that's the whole list for today, though. We got a good crew. Thank you, everybody around the country and around the world who's been in with us. And dope, I'm going to give you today's quote, Big Bob's quote of the day. Never blame people in your life. Never. Why? Because the good people give you happiness. The bad people give you experiences. The worst people give you a lesson. But the best people give you memories.
That's a good one.
Took you a while to warm up.
You've been on the road. You've been on the road lately.
Took you a while to warm up to that one, though.
I had to absorb it.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. I'm a little deep. Did you just say that, dope?
What?
Big Bob dropping knowledge on you. Bam! So thank everybody.
Hey, Bob, I got to tell everybody what my mom said last week. My brother told me. She stood up and was real stiff. And she was dead serious. She said, I feel like I'm 90 years old. And my brother thought, yeah, you should feel like you're 90.
You should. But dope. How many people can say they feel like they're 90 years old?
I know. I said that. I felt like.
Wait a minute. I was going to say, you know what? I almost said that.
I drove to Cleveland, and after getting out the car, after sitting in the car for a long time, you feel like you're 90 years old. And I get to say that because I ain't 90 yet, but she look, should feel like she's 90.
She's 106. Talk about she feel like 90. And that's something. That's something you be 106. You know what? I feel like I'm 80.
No, she didn't mean it that way. She meant it. She felt old. And you should. Duh.
Breaking news, Watson. Hey, Kitty. Oh, Kitty, man. Yeah, your mom. I know your mom. Kitty's mom is 93. Wow.
That's a spring chicken. Shoot.
Yeah, she's spring chicken. Yeah, like my sisters, you know.
That's a Roni. In 93, that's a Roni.
My three sisters, you know, I love them to death, and they are. Remember, I can't say their age. You told I was banned to say their age.
That's right.
But they all, are single, and they call it. What do you call them? What is it? Cougars or something like that? You call them cougars?
Bob, just stop. Okay.
Hey, dope.
I'm gonna save you getting in trouble. Just stop.
Dope. But there ain't no cougars. Them are the mountain lions.
You need to quit.
Go ahead, Lynn. I know you got something to say.
I tried to stop him. I tried.
You tried.
I tried.
Well, thank you, everybody, for being on. And remember, keep those comments coming. Keep those thoughts on shows you want us to do. And whatever you do, continue to share on Facebook. We still stuck at 499. I think last time I checked. We just haven't hit the 500 people mark yet, though. But we get a lot of the same people coming out viewing. That's good for looking at the show. So that's been great. We get major views, and that's always good because we want to spread this information. And on YouTube, make sure you subscribe and get the people to subscribe. Even if you're on Facebook with us, go out there and subscribe on YouTube because it'll help us reach more people. Thank you all and have a wonderful week. We see you next week. Same channel, same place. Have a marvelous day.